A footprint presses into soft mud. Beside the edge of a frozen river, it is wide, deep, human. Moments later, another footprint appears beside it, smaller, narrower, different. For a brief stretch of ground, the two sets of tracks travel together before disappearing beneath fresh snow. No words survive from that meeting, no names, no memory of what was said, or whether either group understood the other at all. Only the footprints remain. For thousands of years, moments like this unfolded across Europe and Western Asia. Two kinds of humans shared the same landscapes, watched the same sunsets, hunted the same animals, and listened to the same winter winds. Today, only one remains. Most people imagine the Neanderthals as nature's failed experiment, a primitive cousin who simply could not keep up. They are often pictured as stooped figures, dragging crude stone tools through frozen valleys, destined to vanish the moment modern humans appeared. It is a simple story. It is also, almost certainly, the wrong one. The more archaeologists uncovered, the less the stereotype survived. Instead of finding creatures trapped somewhere between ape and human, researchers kept discovering evidence of people who looked different from us, yet behaved in surprisingly familiar ways. They crafted sophisticated stone tools with remarkable precision. They controlled fire. They built shelters against brutal Ice Age winters. They hunted enormous animals that outweighed them by several tons. Broken bones found in their camps reveal healed injuries that would have left individuals unable to hunt for months, sometimes years. Someone cared for them. Someone carried them. That single fact quietly dismantles one of the oldest myths about prehistoric life. Compassion did not begin with our species. It may have existed long before us. As discoveries accumulated, another unsettling realization emerged. Neanderthals were not merely surviving one of the harshest environments humans had ever inhabited. They were thriving in it. For nearly 400,000 years, they endured repeated cycles of advancing glaciers, collapsing forests, and dramatic climate shifts that transformed entire continents. Species appeared and disappeared around them, yet the Neanderthals adapted again and again. Their bodies became living responses to the cold. Broad chests helped conserve heat. Powerful limbs generated immense strength. Shorter proportions reduced heat loss during freezing winters. Their noses, unusually large by modern standards, likely warmed icy air before it reached their lungs. Everything about them reflected a world that demanded resilience. Then, something changed. Not all at once, not with a single catastrophic event, but slowly enough that no Neanderthal could have recognized it while living through it. Around 70,000 years ago, another kind of human began moving steadily across Eurasia. They looked familiar enough that at a distance the difference might not have been obvious. They laughed, they hunted, they buried their dead, they cared for children, they feared the darkness. Like the Neanderthals, they belonged to the human family. They were us. For generations, textbooks described this meeting as a straightforward conquest. Modern humans arrived carrying superior intelligence, better technology, and greater creativity. The Neanderthals, unable to compete, simply disappeared. It sounds convincing. History often favors simple explanations. Reality rarely does, because if intelligence alone determined survival, the archaeological record becomes deeply confusing. Neanderthals mastered sophisticated hunting strategies requiring planning, cooperation, and intimate environmental knowledge. At sites across Europe, archaeologists discovered evidence of coordinated ambushes against mammoths, woolly rhinoceroses, giant bison, and cave bears. These were not desperate attacks. They were organized operations. The risks were enormous. One mistake against an adult mammoth could end several lives within seconds, yet they succeeded, often enough to sustain entire communities. Their tools reveal another surprise. For decades, scientists assumed Neanderthal technology remained stagnant, while Homo sapiens rapidly innovated. But closer examination told a far more complicated story. Their stone tools were carefully engineered to maximize sharp edges while minimizing wasted material. Some were attached to wooden handles, using natural adhesives made by heating birch bark under controlled conditions. That process is more remarkable than it first appears. Creating birch tar requires maintaining oxygen levels, and temperatures with surprising precision. It demands planning long before the tool itself is ever finished. Innovation was not exclusive to us, nor was symbolism. Fragments of eagle talons, bearing deliberate cut marks, suggest ornaments were worn as personal decoration. Pigments were collected and transported across considerable distances. Deep inside caves, researchers found markings whose purpose remains uncertain, yet their placement suggests deliberate expression rather than accident. Not everyone agreed on exactly what these discoveries mean, but scientists increasingly agree on something else. The intellectual distance separating Neanderthals and modern humans was probably much smaller than we once imagined, which raises a disturbing question. If they were intelligent, if they adapted to extreme climates, if they cared for one another, if they invented tools, if they expressed symbolism, why did only one human species inherit the Earth? The answer does not begin with a battle. It begins with numbers. Imagine two villages separated by days of walking. One contains 200 people, the other contains 20. Both experience the same harsh winter. Both lose several hunters. Both face food shortages. For the larger population, the losses are painful, but survivable. For the smaller one, they can become irreversible. Researchers now believe Neanderthal populations were astonishingly sparse. Entire regions may have contained only a few thousand individuals. Scattered across immense landscapes, small groups lived isolated from one another, sometimes separated by hundreds of kilometers. Isolation creates invisible dangers. Fewer potential mates, less genetic diversity, knowledge that disappears forever when a skilled hunter dies, entire bloodlines ending because one winter proved slightly colder than the last. Extinction does not always arrive as disaster. Sometimes it arrives as arithmetic. And just as these fragile populations struggled against shifting climates, expanding forests, and shrinking grasslands, another human species entered the same territories. Not dramatically, not violently, but persistently. The world was becoming crowded in a way it had never been before. And for the first time in hundreds of thousands of years, the Neanderthal were no longer alone. Yet what happened next was stranger than disappearance, because modern genetics would eventually reveal something no ancient observer could ever have imagined. The Neanderthals did not simply vanish. A part of them walked away with us